think they're maybe racist just because I'm human, they don't want my help. It seems it doesn't really matter if your superpower's firing to the belt. I tried to join the Justice League, but Batman was a douche to me. And Black Canary wouldn't tell me hi. And Plastic Man just threw a middle finger that was 30 stories high. I got a message from the critics, Avengers.
Hello, welcome to Now Comics. We are mid conversation and talking about the Batman, the 2004.
Okay, so let's rewind for a second, because we were talking about the Blade anime show, and this kind of led into a rabbit hole of just other animated superhero adaptations.
Yeah,
also,
we jumped from like character actor to character actor, like voice lists.
Going back on that, Patton Oswalt was the toy maker in the Batman. I just found this out now. That's kind of cool.
Ooh. Oh, this what do you call it? Mr. Freeze design is fucking awesome.
Right? It looks so cool.
But how bad is this Catwoman design with the goofy ass ears?
Like the Batgirl costume is kind of the Batgirl of Burnside costume before the Batgirl of Burnside costume.
She also is like, is Batgirl like 12 in this show?
She's like the same age as Robin in that show, and they're both like.
She looks like he looks like he's 7, and she looks like she's 12.
See, you know my problem with that show was the moment when they started originating like the Justice League and everything. They started putting that into there. I didn't like it.
I feel like that's one of the reasons why they didn't do that in the original Batman the Animated, is because like when they would do those episodes, then it's like, well, then why is Batman around? Like, if you have Green Lantern, what the fuck is Batman gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm looking at the voice guy. They had
wait, they did an episode with. Oh no, this is Maxie Zeus. Now, I thought this was like all Highfather, but I'm pretty sure this is Maxie's.
Maxie's so good. What a worthless character.
But like, I like that. Like those. Oh my god! Every time this Catwoman thing comes up, I'm like, what?
You're so mad about the fucking Catwoman design.
The ears are terrible. Like, it's also from a comic design I'm not a fan of. Like, I did not like.
Yeah, the ears are pretty fucking bad.
I did not like that goggled look.
Did anyone here watch the movie that this show made, like the Dracula one?
Oh no!
I did. I did. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It wasn't
bad. I kind of enjoyed it. It's not like the best Batman movie, but I enjoyed myself.
It's also not going to be the worst. That's like
apparently they were going to do a sequel that had Hush fighting this version of Batman.
So can we I think that's like a really good segue into a news story we can talk about, which is only because the character is like he's in the goddamn show. Is Hush. What are your guys' thoughts on this whole Batwoman TV show not recasting, making a new character?
All I'm just saying, this has been a really bad fucking week for CWDC.
Yeah.
I mean, are they still calling the show Batwoman? Because like, if they're making a new character,
it's just a different character.
She's taking the mantle. She's going to be Batwoman.
Okay. She's just taking the mantle. I thought it was like a whole new character altogether.
It is.
I mean, like, I don't really have my ear to the ground on the CW stuff, but, like, other than, like, the change of Batgirl and that racist guy on The Flash, like, was there any other, like, kind of, like, news?
No. And,
no,
like,
it's
we'll
just,
get
like,
into his stuff, but, like,
in a minute.
I'm trying to, like, so it's the character is not going to be Kate Kane. I'm trying to find the quote, because they interviewed, like, the showrunner, and the quote she had is really
not good.
Dumb.
I saw like the description for the new character, and it seems like it seems like a very Scrappy Doo-esque version of Batman.
Yes.
So I have everything right here. I'm on the Wikipedia thing.
Oh, I have the. So it's like, all right, I'm inventing a whole new character. In her past, she was inspired by Batwoman, who, jumping out of the quote, has been Batwoman for what, a year, maybe?
I guess? Question mark.
So to go back into it. She is going to take the mantle and is completely maybe not be the right person at the time to be doing it. That's what makes it fun. One of the other things they said is she's going to be a former drug addict who works out of her van and is the opposite of Kate Kane in every way, personality-wise. So she's more friendly and outgoing. But also,
where'd she get these skills to be to be a bat?
Give me Stephanie Beatrice, you cowards.
The thing I clicked on, which it is not a great source because it's CBR, has one of the Riverdale cast members, Vanessa Morgan.
Was that the whole? Was she in the running?
It says like they're circling her.
I mean, with her comments on Riverdale the past week, I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe I'm not sure.
I don't know if you guys know who I'm talking about.
TV.
Riverdale's still on. It has a spin-off.
I guess like all those CW shows like last for like 15 seasons.
No,
well,
no.
I mean,
the
Vanessa
only one
Morgan, you guys heard about what she said about Riverdale this past week, right? Like what's been happening?
No.
Oh, she's pissed. Like she made this. Okay, I have this thing right here. She was like calling the CW show out because she was like constantly sidelining her character.
Well, because her character is gay in the show.
Tired of how black people are portrayed in media. Tired of us being portrayed as thugs, dangerous, or angry, scary people. Tired of us also being used as sidekick, non-dimensional characters to our white leads, or only used in the ads for diversity, but not actually in the show. Because from what I'm gathering...
Okay, so I've watched, because my wife really liked it. We only stopped watching because Luke Perry died. And she just literally could not go back to the show because she's like, seeing him was like going to make her sad because he was so good in it.
Yeah.
But she's literally like, she's the black girl who's the only girl in the Serpent's gang who is gay and she's black, who then starts dating one of the white leads, and then they form a second gang, but she's not in charge, the white girl is. And she is there, so like there is other characters of color in the show. One of them got the spin-off, Josie. So we have the Josie in the Josie is not, she's in the spin-off, but it's Kate Kane, like Katie Kane or something?
Katie Keene, I believe.
Katie Keene. She's in that show, but she's not the lead.
Okay, so here's apparently the creator of Riverdale responded to Vanessa's statements. So he said, excuse me, we hear Vanessa, we love Vanessa, she's right, we're sorry, and we make the same promise that we did to her. We will do better to honor her and the character she plays, as well as all of our actors and characters of color. Change is happening and will continue to happen. Riverdale will get bigger, not smaller. Riverdale will be part of the movement, not outside it.
Well, they've had like gay characters and they've had characters of color, but they're all.
But if that report turns out to be true, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to leave the show are you going to go to the show that's giving you a lead role, or stay on the show where you're going to be like constantly
also weird that like they film in the same area? Because like the only thing is one of the leads is like Hispanic. I can't remember her name. That plays Veronica, but she's quote unquote, and I will say this as somebody who's Hispanic, she's passable. Like I feel like if you didn't know it and they didn't play it up in the show,
Camila Mendez. Yeah,
like you wouldn't know it by looking at her. Like she's not dark skinned.
She was born here, but her parents are the parents are both from Brazil.
Yeah. Like I know this is like a hard thing like to talk about, but like she passes, for lack of a better term. So like I feel like that's why it's easier to make her a lead in the show.
Okay.
But like her parents in the show are like super dark because her dad is, what's his name? Kelly Ripa's husband.
Mark Consuelos.
Yes. And I can't remember the mom because all the parents in the show.
I have the whole cast list right here. It's Marisol Nichols as a mom.
Yeah. Like all the parents in the show are like people from other things that were big in like the 80s and 90s because they legit do like a Breakfast Club thing in one of the episodes with the parents being played as kids.
Wasn't Mark Consuelos? I've seen that episode. Wasn't Mark Consuelos like big on soap operas?
Yeah, that's where him and Kelly Ripa met. They met on the soap opera.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ryan and Tyler are probably just like, so this is a Riverdale podcast now?
I haven't.
It's fine.
Yeah, I haven't watched the show in a while.
I have no idea what's going on, but okay.
Yeah,
I just remember like watching Riverdale like very early on, and was just like kind of mortified.
It's fine.
I mean, it's okay. It gets more insane as it goes, which is what I'm hearing, and I kind of enjoy that. Is that it just goes crazier and crazier. But Archie is the worst character in the show. I can't speak for everyone else because I heard they also do some stupid shit.
Yeah, like Jughead's definitely the better male character in the show, and Archie's like every time Archie's on screen, you're like, oh my god, go away. Also, his hair. The hair of the two male leads is distractingly terribly dyed. It literally looks like on Jughead, like I can't remember because he's one of the twins from Big Daddy, that they just dump shoe polish on his head, and the other kid has like the worst redhead hair dye.
What's funny is like the adults were the best part of the show because you had what is her name? Shelley Johnson from Twin Peaks as Betty's mom.
Yeah.
You had Skeet Ulrich in the show. You had all these like
Luke Perry. Jesse's mom is what's her name? Robin Quivers.
That's right. I forgot.
And I can't remember. Like there was like they got the adults are
They
all
got
good
Molly
actors.
Ringwald as Archie's mom.
Yes, which she's fine in it. But yeah, let's stop talking about that. Also, with the CW news, it sucks. But tweets from 2008, I think it was 2012 was 8 years ago from Hartley Sawyer kind of surfaced.
Which, hey, depending on who you talk to, is still part of this decade.
Yes. So, and it's kind of like if you read them, some of them are like whatever, some of them are really bad, but they all seem to be like jokes, or I don't know, like it's definitely worse than
James Gunn,
like the content. But they reacted very fast in cutting ties with it.
But I think it's also like the
it's
stuff
bad
that
timing.
the stuff that James Gunn said was also like, over a decade ago. It's like
it's slightly older and slightly less bad.
It's like I don't know if you guys follow Bon Appetit on like YouTube at all.
No, I do not.
So there was like a big thing with Bon Appetit today, which was like where the editor in chief it like was revealed that he did a like a photo at some Halloween party in like 2013 where him and his wife were in like they like painted their faces to look like Mexicans. And,
so they did brown face.
Yeah, and it's just like
what was this?
A Bon Appetit. And then
I heard about this. Yep.
And then one of like the editors or like one of the people who's like an on-camera person named Sola revealed that none of the people of color who work on the video side of Bon Appetit are like paid for like their work. Like it's only like the white presenters that are paid for their work, like Brad, Leon, and Clara.
That's the worst look.
Well, yeah. And that was like also couple. So, and then there has been like, a bunch of other chefs who've come out and said like, it's like there's like this huge history of kind of racism within the upper echelon of management within Bon Appetit. And like that guy's gone today, but it's just like,
I have watched something on this channel.
Like the channel's great. And the personalities of that show are really good. But then it was just like one of those things where it's just like this huge kind of like snowball effect within like one day. And it's like, and a lot of people are like, well, it's like a bad decision. Like, how could you fire someone over a bad decision? And it's like, well, like one, it's like say like people who bring up like racist stuff that you say on Twitter, it's like, or like whatever, it's like, or MySpace or whatever. It's like if it happened like 15 years ago or whatever, I can like, and you look at the person now like a James Gunn and like the work and that they do, to help minorities and those communities, like that's one thing. But like if you come out to have done something supremely racist within like almost 5 years, it's like more likely that person has not changed at all.
Well, it's also for that specific case that you're talking about, it's doing something in 5 years and then also only the people of color are the ones not getting paid. Is like that is like an added level. Which I couldn't remember. Yeah, I watched the show where the woman makes like recreates things.
Yeah, that's Clara.
Yeah, and I love that. That's awesome. But yeah, like the Hartley stuff is like I don't know how to feel about it.
Because he like not only said like racist stuff, but he also said some things were just like very like sexually gross.
Yes. Yeah, like a lot of stuff is gross, and there's like, but what's weird is like there's also tweets thrown in like the comments, and I'm like, why is this included? It's like, oh, my dog won't come to bed with me. Like, she's such a whore. I'm like, is that a bad joke? Like, I've referred to like jokingly, like, with like family members, like that their dog, like, you walk up to it and she just like rolls on her back and presents herself. It's like, and they'll be like, oh, she's such like a little slut dog. It's like, is that bad?
I mean, it's like you would say that, but it's like, would you write that on Twitter?
Well, yeah, but that's also like it's Twitter 8 years ago.
The other tweets that are worse.
There's some really bad, indefensible.
Everyone's just too sensitive nowadays. Like I had a friend. There's like a protest like in my town, and like my white friend was like coming home from work, and he just yelled, "These people!" but not towards like the black people, but like because they're like in the street, like no one can drive by. and he's just super paranoid now. He just thinks everyone's gonna get him now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, there's also, and in one of our chats I brought this up, and I guess it's like easier to talk about it like when you actually talk to each other and not like text. It's like a weird white privilege thing to be called out on your tweets. It only happens to white people, really.
I do not think that is true at all. As a matter of fact, I think it's like kind of almost like worse off for like if a person is a minority within like racially a minority or gender a minority or sexually a minority. Like I think it's like if you get called out within those circles, it's like it's
really because
at the end of the day, I don't even want to try to make this out to be like a contest. Like if you say if you say something really shitty, like you should like be held accountable for it. Yes, you have the freedom of speech to say like whatever you want, but like you also don't have the freedom of repercussion. It's like
I agree with you. It's just like I guess where the part I don't is like no one does this to like rap and hip hop stuff like at all, or like black actors that have said like really shitty stuff in the past. Like if they did, like Eddie Murphy would never work again.
But they've tried. Like I mean,
Eddie Murphy said homophobic shit like in the 80s, which was like like he shouldn't have. But it's like also like a time and period where like that was like the easy kind of go-to joke for like a lot of like shock comics. Like I don't see Eddie Murphy even in the last like 5 years, 10 years, like saying like homophobic slurs like on Twitter or in like stand-ups. Like, who I do see? Louis C.K., who's a shitbag, who deserves to be a shitbag, who just like will not learn,
Well,
I guess like
in comedic defense. I was gonna say like they've been trying to go after Dave Chappelle for like a long time, and he just doesn't care at this point.
Yeah, and Dave Chappelle has had some like very questionable things about his transphobia, but like at the same time, it's like he's also it's like one of those things where
he's
it's
also like a black Muslim man, so he has like a little bit of layer of protection. I feel like I guess that's like I know it's like a little hard. It's like what I feel as somebody who's like of color. I don't know if like Ryan, you feel that way.
Like what way? Like if someone calls me a name, I just don't care.
No. That like there's some kind like I feel like people, to me at least, what I see is like the call out culture is more calling out like white people, and I find that as like this. I guess where it bothers me is that like it feels like it's
one-sided.
It's like racism from the left, where it's like, oh, they don't call out the people of color because they expect them to be that way because they're not as cultured. That's how it comes across to me sometimes.
I mean, the one thing I can like remember like recently was that like Killer Mike, who I fucking love. Like I love Run the Jewel, and like I was like,
album, dope.
It's so good. And it's like totally like kind of the album I need right now. But it's like I remember about a year ago he did like some videos for NRA TV, and it's just like it's like you would think like if anyone would know that the NRA doesn't care about like the African American community, especially like it's like now, it would have been him, and I was like very disappointed about it, and it looks like he, but it's like that's just like one thing, it's like it seems like he still is like fighting the good fight for the most part, but like the idea that like white people call out, or white people calling out cancel culture and kind of stuff like that, it's like I don't know, man, like I feel like me, being someone of privilege and like having people within my like working circle who are negatively affected by like the things that are happening in the world today, and like I have like always have been like under the idea that I need to be an ally and I need to use like my voice to help amplify the voices of the people who like necessarily wouldn't have like the pedestal to be able to speak out, because it's like the only reason why change will happen is if like everyone kind of like comes together. You know, it's like they're like right now over like the last couple of weeks, like we've had like these marches, and even today it was like announced that Minnesota is like restructuring their police, and it's like that would not have happened if it wasn't for like if it was just like minorities speaking up. It's like also like, you know, everyone banding together.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost like two things. Is I like all the protests. I live basically in the nation's capital. There's been a ton of changes like in the area. It's just like I feel like there's like an unspoken thing about how, and I think it's mostly like in Black and Hispanic culture, about like there's like, especially when it comes to like women, treating women, and homophobia, that like is very evident and no one talks about, unless like any like the fact that like Chris Brown is like allowed to do anything basically tells me all I need to know. I feel like
and that like I do not understand, like that guy just has like deflection armor like for days.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's like, oh, and 8 years ago I had known about R. Kelly peeing on a 12-year-old for like 7 years.
Yep.
So like that's kind of what I'm getting at. There's like, it's this weird, I know we're like way off topic, but like
I was gonna say this is about Blade, ladies and gentlemen, but
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, like also it's like, but I mean, you know, it's like
we're
the
in
idea
a
of, like,
big
this
time
is
in the world right now.
this is a comics podcast, like at the beginning of the day, but like also like contrary to like some people's belief, like politics have their place in comics, and like I think like to not talk about like the things that are happening in the world is like also negating like the thing, because
Well,
it's
like
like
one
absolutely.
of the things like I didn't even realize that like, and I'm surprised like it hasn't been added to like the news reports. When you said that what's his name is the guy in that video in Central Park, I was like, wait, what? I was like, why didn't they include that in every single news clip? I'm like, it's not just like a dude watching birds. It's like former editor-in-chief of Marvel.
I mean, like, I knew about that like the day after, because like that was like when like Comics Twitter was starting to talk about it. It's like, oh, it's this guy, like this Chris, you know?
Yeah, but like it's weird that like mainstream media didn't include that. Like I feel like, especially like I don't know, ABC. Like I feel like
I saw more interviews with like the lady than I saw with the guy.
Yeah, like, and it's like a weird thing. Like I don't know, like, and that's like a whole nother thing. Like, and I guess like I would like, one, obviously that story is fucking ridiculous, but like I feel like if you've been like, oh, all you kids watching like Marvel movies, here's a dude that was part of the creation of these characters that was part of this, but it was not included in, like, I didn't see him in anything. I didn't even see him connected to being part of Marvel, which is like weird.
Because unfortunately, he's a part of Marvel Comics.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I didn't even hear them say that.
Not a part of the Marvel movies. If he was like a writer or a director or an actor for like the Marvel films,
I was gonna say like, one of
they
the 7 totally black people in Marvel.
But like,
T'Challa gets arrested at the marches and like everyone goes crazy, as opposed to like a lead. Was it? He was a writer, right? Or was he just?
He was an editor for Marvel in the 90s.
Yeah, he's responsible for the swimsuit issue thing, which is hilarious. The men's swimsuit issue.
Oh no.
But like he did it to kill the women's swimsuit issue, which I was explaining to my wife. I'm like, yeah, the like SI Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue was so big, Marvel did their own thing, which is as gross as you think it is. And then when this guy like got in there,
like your image you sent, was,
he did. Oh my god. And there's all double entendres. Like the Wolverine one, he's like grilling and he's like has a hot dog on his claw and is like opening his mouth to like take a bite. But like, yeah, it's like, I don't know. Yeah, comics and like politics are like always been connected. Comics have been like very on the front lines. I would say in like not in the last like 15 years since they got bought. The big two got bought out by 2 giant corporations.
I'm looking at Christian Cooper's Wikipedia right now. He is attributed for creating the first gay male character within Star Trek for the Starfleet Academy series. He is also was the editor for Alpha Flight number 106, which was the coming out of North Star. So, you know.
is he out?
Christian Cooper, yes.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say, because like one of the quotes in that thing was that he like made that issue like the gayest thing ever, and I was like, man, I really hope you like. I was like, man, you're gonna get in trouble if he's also not.
It's like funny because it's like Warren Ellis telling the story, and like I shared like that Warren Ellis story a couple days ago when people were just talking about like how much of a teddy bear Warren Ellis is. And he's just like, who's saying that about me? I'll kill them. it's like that's funny. Like Warren Ellis is like, man, Warren Ellis is great, but it's like he seems like to be like the tough guy that Frank Miller wants to be, but like is also like the biggest sweetheart, but wants to keep up that facade of being like a tough guy. Like he's Ron Swanson.
Oh yeah, yes.
He's the Ron Swanson of comic book. God bless that comparison.
But yeah, like I like also like the other thing about Cooper is like I mean like it's like he hadn't worked at Marvel in like 25 years, so maybe it was just like also like one of those things where they just like didn't think it was like
yeah, but I feel like when they always like I don't know, like or at least like say like, oh, comic book editor or like something like I feel like, and this is like again like part of the weirdness of it all is like the story became more about the woman and not about him.
Which always happens, by the way.
Yeah.
Like that's a thing, because it was just like she's like giving these interviews about how her life is ruined, and it's like,
yeah, well, it should. You should.
Like, it should be. Yeah. It's it's like that lady who like refused to give like that marriage license to that gay couple, and then she made like so much money like from GoFundMe's and like all these other things, and it's like because like that's the.
Did you guys hear about the woman who called the police on the man who asked her to leash her dog?
That's this.
That's
what we're talking about.
You heard about the law, right? That he did today. Is that what we're talking about?
Oh well,
No.
like that the mayor is like trying to push some new law.
No, yeah, he's pushing the Amy Cooper bill.
Yeah, I don't know essentially what the bill is, but it's like if you're having an anti-racism law that's named after yourself, like holy shit.
So
like,
the proposed law would make it a hate crime when 911 callers make a false accusation based on race, gender, or religion.
Good, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah,
and like that's probably the only good thing De Blasio's ever done because I fucking hate.
It's
that
actually
guy.
Cuomo pushing it.
Oh, so it's the governor. Okay, that makes more sense. De Blasio's.
They should just like make a law for like wasted time on like 911 calls in general. Like
you can get fined. There's like, and now we're going like real into the weeds. There is like a weird, there's like a weird mentality of like if you punish people for doing those things, then they're less likely to do them in the future. So like it kind of puts like a bad like a negative consequence to them. They'll make people just won't even help like or do anything.
But like
worried about it.
Well, there was like what was it? The lady who was like who called the police because someone was having a barbecue. Like that was just a waste of time.
Oh, there's been a bunch of those. There was like a woman who called the cops because like a black girl was selling lemonade.
Okay, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and like the cops like because she called and made like a formal complaint, and the girl was like technically breaking the law. Like they were like, we hate that we have to do this, but like they had to legally take it down. And it was like, I don't know. We're like way into the weeds. So
John, back to Blade.
I feel like the title of this episode should be like, "We get political, yo."
Yeah. Well, I feel like we're in like it's what's been going on in the country, and like you can't
absolutely. It's like we can't not ignore it.
We should just talk about X-Men and how mutants are like persecuted.
Yeah. Well, actually, good segue.
Or we should talk about why The Last Days of American Crime is a poorly timed release movie right now.
Oh god, I don't even.
Yeah, read like the synopsis for the movie, but it's the movie basically the comic.
I've never read the comic, so I can't comment on it.
Do you know like what the plot of the movie is?
It's like the world crime has been outlawed or something, or it's like
so basically there's like a thing that's about to happen where that it will like basically propel people to like not like do crimes anymore in the US, like because of like some kind of like pseudoscience, like technology bullshit. And so it's like these people putting together like a heist to basically do the last great American crime, and then like they put together everything and they're gonna like do whatever, and then they're gonna hop over to Canada.
And everyone's acting like, whoa, it got like a 0%. Because you got the guy who made Taken 2 and 3. No shit, it's gonna get a 0%.
They
Like,
should just
okay.
re-release the Joker in like HD remastered for everyone to see.
But
Society.
we do live in one. Anyway, let's get on to...
Yeah, John, take us through some of these news
Back to
things that you
Blade.
shared.
Yeah, okay, so let's start with like the small ones first. Marvel Comics will release their free comic book day comics of Venom and X-Men that were supposed to come out in May. Will now be coming out in July. I assume they'll still be free.
I was gonna say, are they still gonna be free? Because if they're not free, I don't care.
Well, if it says like free comic book day on them, I'm assuming they'll be free. And are they free digital?
Probably. Like like if I know anything about like printing, these books have already been printed. They're basically just sitting somewhere waiting to be sold or handed out or whatever.
Oh my god! Did you read the bottom part of this article? The last line.
No.
Some guy has sold 137 copies of the Spider-Man free comic book day for $25 each on eBay.
Scumbag.
Or
an
no,
asshole.
that tells me like people are dumb. Like,
Yeah,
why are
that
you
too.
buying a free comic book for $25?
I mean, like some of those free comic book day comics actually do go for money at some point. Like there was like one I was like kind of surprised about that I think I any of those that do end up like selling, because like at the end of the day I just want to like read a book. DC canceled a couple books. Lucifer's canceled.
Yeah, everything I read.
And House of Whispers final issue will be digitally only, which like kind of like blows. It's like if you're gonna have like
it's all the Neil Gaiman stuff. It's the Neil Gaiman Sandman universe. They canceled them all.
But it's like if you only have like one issue left of a series that you've sold as a physical book like this entire time, like why not just have the last issue like be a physical? Like why even do that? Like it just seems like such it seems like such a like middle finger to like people who would have bought the physical like, issues of that book for 20 issues.
Yeah, which I want to say, like the Lucifer book, the story had to do with the Wild Hunt, which we talked about in the Hellboy stuff. It's like their take on it, or like Neil Gaiman because he's writing that book. And then the House of Whispers had like a really cool, like it finally matched like a side story that dealt with like an illegal immigrant girl and a handicapped trans person to like the main plot that had to do with, oh my god, the Corinthian, the House of Whispers, and the House of Windows, House of Rumor. I think it's the House of Rumors because it's all like every house they're like pairs or whatever, and it was like really interesting and like really fucking heavy like shit, like with those two characters, and then like dealing with the one goddess and her like brother husbands instead of sister wives, and like losing one of them, and like that was all really interesting. I really like these books, and I'm glad we're gonna get some finale to them, but this also tells me that I guess they're canceled and they're done at this. So like I'm guessing they're closing out that entire universe.
Just wait for like a couple months and they'll announce Doomsday Clock 2 with the Watchmen, the DC universe, and the Sandman universe.
Oh, I'm down for that.
The Sandman's already in the DC universe. He showed up. What do you call it? Snyder put him in. He's in Dark Knight's Metal.
Really?
Yeah, because when
I did not know that.
Batman and Superman are like tied up at some point, and like Batman just like because they're like in some sort of a dream state, and Batman like opens his eyes and just says like I think it's Matthew, and it's Dream, and like they have a conversation.
I mean, Death has showed up in DC.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a whole issue with Action Comics with Lex Luthor and Death. It's really good. Also written by Paul Cornell of Captain Britain and MI13, which we'll talk about later. DC Comics also canceled Manhunter's Secret History. We might have brought that up like a couple weeks ago.
I think we brought it up in the chat. So like this was going to be one of the spin-offs of Leviathan. which is kind of sucky because I really like that story and I like this character in that story. I liked her in Green Arrow.
Well, and which was also like kind of sucky is that this was going to be written by Mark Andreyko, who wrote like a pretty celebrated Manhunter series in the 2000s. So this was like going to be like, the writer's return to like this, really celebrated run, and it's like, oh, it's not going to happen now. It'd be like if they were going to do like a Renee Montoya story with Greg Rucka, and then they were like, it's canceled. We're not doing it. And it's like,
yeah, I do kind of.
Which also sucks because it's like this. Like I imagine this is already in the can. Like this is just sitting on the shelf.
It just needs to be printed.
It just needs to be printed. Like at this point, like I don't know why like a lot of these series that you have, like they just don't release them digitally. Like why isn't Manhunter Secret History not a digital book?
I'm wondering if like the term canceled is like not what they mean right now. And if it's like waiting till like they actually, because I feel like it's more like it's on indefinite hold, and when we have the chance to, like when we financially have a chance to like put out a book that we know is not going to sell big numbers, like a Batman or an Action or Green Lantern, they'll put it back out. You know what I mean? Because like I get everybody's tightening their waist right now because like none of these comic book companies have people in. Comic book shops are closed, so they can't even like put stuff out. Like everything, like I don't even know. Are you able to get stuff mailed to you right now? I guess that would have just started, right?
I mean,
like what, like 2 weeks ago?
I mean, like we've been sending out stuff like ever since the shutdown.
Yeah.
Like we never stopped shipping books. Like which probably also like helps us out a little bit.
I do want to point out this really seems like the week where DC's canceling everything. They're canceling comics. They're canceling DC Daily, which I don't know who cares about that, but that got canceled on DC Universe. And they canceled Diamond, so this just everything got canceled from DC this week.
Do we want to talk about the Diamond thing first, or do we want to talk about Eisner? Because I feel like they're both kind of big stories. But
I feel like we like the DC the Diamond thing maybe first, because like I feel like that. Because maybe I'm misremembering. Which one was I thought they had already like used another company, or was that Marvel?
Are you talking about as DC announced a new distributor, or like they were teaming up with a different distributor.
Okay, yeah. So I feel like
earlier.
why was this news almost?
Because they're not shipping their books to Diamond, like period. So like comic stores will now have to like order DC books, through whoever new retailer or distributor that they're going to be using. Which like
is that a big deal? Like I'm saying this from somebody who's not a retailer. Like, is that a big deal?
As someone who hasn't done retail comics since 2015, I'm not really sure because like I don't really know like how what to set up like an account for DC through like this distributor be like. I know based off of like the responses on Twitter for some of the people I follow who do run comic stores, they are very worried about it from like from like a very like small scale to like a very extreme scale. But I feel like the most extreme takes on like DC not being with Diamond are people who run the store. It's like people who don't rely on trade sales as a store, which I feel like if you're like going to be a competitive, financially gaining comic book store in 2020, you have to have like a very solid trade program. And that's not even just like talking about like American trades. I'm talking about like manga. I'm talking about like all these other different things. Like you can't like unless like you're like a specialty store that delves with like back issues and that's like your whole entire financial background. Like that's one thing. Like you're serving like we have a store like that in Portland and that is like their one thing. But like like some of these like there was like that guy that got or that article that got posted within the group of that guy who was just like the sky is falling. It's like dude, just change your business.
Wasn't there one guy who was like having he ran an online website, but he was running a fuck DC sale, 50% off everything.
Yeah, that's the guy I'm talking about.
I don't get it. Like, okay, so you have to order your books through somebody else?
The worry is that DC is looking away from the secondary market, or is looking away from like the direct market. And when people say the direct market, it's like comic book stores, and instead focusing on having their books in like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, bookstores, Walmart, which is like, you know,
hasn't that already
like,
been happening?
which is, yeah, it's like kind of already happening. And like comics got big at a certain point in American history because you had like newsstands and like in like these grocery stores and like these in these retailers that would have like the floppies for like single issues like at the check stand. I mean, like, that's how I got into like Disney comics, because like you would have Disney Adventures like at the food stand, and you would like pick it up and you would read like the newest like issue of Darkwing Duck or Tailspin or whatever. And I feel like DC, like, based off of like the success of like having those Walmart comics, like, they're a company who has been number 2 for like a very long time. And DC like really like wants to like try and like figure out like how to get into like the mass market in a way that kind of like Marvel has kind of permeated ever since basically 2000 with like, or 1999 with Blade. And then you have like X-Men, the movies, and the movies like do so well that it basically sells the comics for you. Like,
yeah.
I got into comics because I watched X-Men, in the X-Men animated series, when I was a kid. But like, I got back in the comics because the movies were so rad, and DC's like just trying to do that. And I feel like shops just need to evolve. Like, I said this on the show before, I think 70% of most comic books are pretty worthless because they cater to an older audience. They don't evolve with the times. They like base like their like algorithm on like such like old data, or like they just want to cater to what they like, which you can't. You can never do that.
Yeah, that's where like I feel like it's like haven't we all been waiting for like the other shoe to drop on like the digital stuff?
Yeah, and that's also the other thing. It's like Diamond fucking sucks. Like,
it shouldn't be mad at DC. This happened because Diamond wasn't doing their goddamn job.
Yeah, and it's like Diamond's just been been the biggest thorn in the sides of comic book retailers for so long that people have been like dying, wishing for like another distributor to like come out and like do something. And they, and like there have been like people who've like tried starting something, and it just like never really gets a foothold because Diamond has such like a stronghold within that industry. And now that like the second biggest comic book publisher is like no longer work with Diamond, it's like that's huge. And regardless if like DC is working with like a company that is also like not like 100% like retailer friendly, like that still is like a chink in the armor for like another company to maybe do something, or maybe it makes Diamond do better and try better.
Like get off their ass and like clean up their fucking act.
Like, now that they aren't the only name in the game, like maybe they like need to like kind of like fight for their position and actually like be an ally to comic book stores.
It's like you're saying monopolies are bad.
Yeah, well,
pretty much.
But like, technically, Diamond's not a monopoly. Am I right?
No.
Thanks, courts.
But yeah, I feel like there's. I think we kind of said everything on it, but like, yeah, I pretty much agree with everything. It's like, I feel like if you're gonna be mad at Diamond for sucking. Like, they could, if they were good, this wouldn't have happened. So do we want to talk about the Eisners before we get into Blade?
The Eisners nominations were announced, and it's like kind of like a really interesting year. Where not a whole lot Marvel, not a whole lot DC, like a lot of like indie publishers, like some stuff I'm like.
Now I have a question. Was Hoxpox last year?
So this would have been for anything that was released within January 2019 through December 2019.
So yeah, then Hoxpox would count.
I don't know if it finished yet though. So
maybe it's still going?
No, I don't think it had finished by that point.
Yeah, so it's like you could have submitted like a single issue, but like for the most part, it's like If you're
Yeah,
like,
I am looking.
For...
No,
Yeah.
July to October 2019. It would have counted.
Yeah.
Oh, because wouldn't it be under best
it would
like
have been
limited series?
Yeah, that's surprising. I mean,
so,
good for most of the indie stuff, but that's still surprising.
Yeah. So like looking at it right now, okay, so like best single issue or one shot, we have Coin Op number 8, by Peter and Maria Hoy from Coin Op Books, The Freak by Matt Lewizinski from Ad House. Our favorite thing is My Favorite Thing is Monster by Emily Ferris, which was like a sequel to Our Favorite Thing is Monsters, which is like a huge book from like a couple years ago. Minotaur from Lisa Tremaine, who like is really cool. Like Lisa Tremaine like did the first arc of Giant Days, and she's currently a storyboarder for Disney now. She did some storyboarding or like concept art for Gigantic before it got canceled. And like you can like see her the few art pieces that have come out from it, and it's like all her art and it looks so good. But yeah, and then Sobek from James Stokey.
Yeah, that's nominated a bunch in here. I'm like, okay, should I be reading this? Like, I've never heard of it.
So James Stokey is amazing. He did Godzilla: The Half Century, which was a 5-issue mini about one man's continuous lifelong battle with Godzilla. He's also like done some odds and ends, like kind of character art stuff. Like there's like a really kind of popular image of Spider-Man in Vietnam that's being shared around sometimes. The Spider-Nom artwork that's also done by him. There's like a really cool Galactus like Silver Surfer piece that's done by him. But yeah, he's great. Like his art's so good. And so like Sobek, I guess, was his like career-owned book. Which like I saw like an issue of it at like one of my local stores, and I didn't pick it up because it was a single issue and it was $15. And I was like, oh man, I love
That's a hard price point.
But it's like, I don't know about that price, but like maybe I'll like go and try and find it now.
Oh, this Spider-Man image is fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, if you've never like really seen James Stokey art, like his Godzilla book is like rad. If I also remember right, he did an Aliens book.
Oh shit, that's cool.
So but then we have like best continuing series, The Bitter Root from David Walker and Stanford Green at Image, Criminal by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, Crowded from Christopher Sabella and Ted Brandt and Rothstein at Image, Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky and Marco Cicchetti from Marvel, The Dreaming by Simon Spurrier.
I'm so happy Chip Zdarsky's getting some recognition, because I read Spider-Man Life Story last year. What a good ass comic.
Man, Chip Zdarsky low-key is like maybe like one of the top 5 best writers in comics.
I feel like we talk about.
He got nominated for writer too. Like he got nominated, I think, for writer this year.
And then The Dreaming by Simon Spurrier,
which
and then
I love that book.
And Immortal Hulk by Al Ewing and Joe Bennett and Rui Jose. Which, man, continuing series, what up? Just murder's row of great books.
Yeah, I saw Ascender got nominated in, what was it?
Cantwell's Doctor Doom got nominated. I have been meaning to read. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, limited series Ascender by Jeff Lemire,
which has been great.
Ghost Tree, Little Bird, Naomi, and Sentient. Like Naomi's great.
I like Naomi. I feel like it doesn't belong in that.
I don't even know if like Naomi is like kind of like it. Like Naomi's good.
I feel like it's a hype thing. Like it was such a hype book. Like, and I do really like that book. I don't think I would say like, I think like, I don't know. Again, we're not like the age group for it, but like, I think Hoxpox, whatever way, like I'm assuming they must have like not nominated, because like I would put that over Naomi. I'm like, I feel like it's a little too.
I think like also it's like this is like a limited series. Like how it's like to do Hox, like it's not Hoxpox. It's you would nominate House of X and then you would nominate Powers of 10, and it's like, does House of X stand on its own without?
No, they're like they're a series like together. But yeah, I guess I'm saying like that specific book kind of stands out to me of like, oh, like it's weird of like all these things, and it's like that's the non-indie book.
Like it's but like I also like can't really come off the top of my head of a better limited series that came out last year.
I feel like, again, I mean, even putting that at limited series, I thought they were continuing it. I thought it was a continuing series, but they just haven't gotten back to.
No, Naomi ended with like issue 6, and they're like coming back to it.
Yeah, I thought it was like, oh, this is like the end of like series 1 or like season 1 of it.
Yeah. And then we have best new series. We got Doctor Doom, The Invisible Kingdom, Once and Future King from Boom Studios and Green
Which
Guild.
I've heard a lot about, so I'm a little curious on that one.
Boom Studios like released like a lot of like really cool new books last year. Something is Killing the Children by James Tynion was kind of a hot book for a while. Undiscovered Country by Scott Snyder and Charles Soule and Giuseppe Camicoli, which I actually have no knowledge about. Like,
yeah, I'm surprised I haven't heard about that. Like, I've liked pretty much everything Snyder's done. Also, like, I'm just like in awe of is it Stokey?
James Stokey.
Yeah, his art, like this art is ridiculous. Like, I love it. Like, that Hulk image is hilarious, and I love it. And there's like a million Hulks in it, and there's like a Spider-Man Hulk, there's Gray Hulk, there's a Captain America Hulk.
Yeah, if I also remember right, he like draws very weirdly. Like the way he holds his like pen is odd. Yeah, it's like he's a cool guy. Like,
yeah, like the alien stuff is it's an interesting interpretation of like H.R. Geiger. Like, I feel like his weirdness with that weirdness mixes well. It reminds me of like in a good way, like that like kind of grungy 90s like, oh man, I can't remember who did it, but did like the stuff for like Rob Zombie and Beavis and Butthead. Like, do you know what I'm talking about? Like that weird
kind of
heavy metal art. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I forget their name, but like, yeah, they do like a lot.
It seems adjacent, like not like his, like when that Godzilla is like very refined, but like the Hulk one is what reminds me of that, where it's like very big and bold, like in the facial designs and stuff like that, like the cartooniness.
See here, and I'm just going to kind of gloss over some of these, like some cool like nominations for best publication for teens: Harley Quinn, Breaking Glass, Mariko Tamaki, and Steve Pugh. Like DC's been kind of doing like a really good job, like the young reader, like kind of teen books. So it's kind of cool that book got nominated. Lauren Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me, also by Mariko Tamaki. That book's like really rad. I'm very glad that got nominated. Best Humor, Minotaur and Sobek from Lisa Tremaine and James Stokey also got nominated. Best Reality-Based Work, My Solo Exchange Diary, Volume 2, the sequel to My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness. It's so good. The second, like the Solo Exchange Diary is like not as, like, it's good. It's like not as like, engaging, I feel like, as My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness. But like those two books have been like really good. Like my friend got like nominated for that. He did the H.P. Lovecraft At the Mountains of Madness Volume 1 and 2, and he did the translation work for that. So kind of happy for him.
Oh, cool.
Best U.S. edition of an international materia, Asia, which usually is just basically named the manga category. B-Stars, very rad. Cats in the Grass, Magic Knight Radio's 25th Anniversary Collection, The Poe Clan, and Witch Hat Atelier. It would not surprise me if B-Stars walks away with that, based off of like the hype of like the Netflix show. But like I also made a joke on Twitter. It's like one of these days, like the company I work will be nominated for an Eisner. Like absolutely, 100%. Like that's my goal while working there. But for like the singular work, Best Writer, Bobby Curnow for Ghost Tree, M.K. Reed and Greg Means for Penny Nichols, Mariko Tamaki for Harley Quinn Breaking Glass, Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up Me, and Archie, Louis Trondheim for Stray and Maggie Grayson, G. Willow Wilson for Invisible Kingdom and Miss Marvel, and Chip Zdarsky for White Trees, Daredevil, Spider-Man Life Stories, and Afterlife. Basically, I feel like this is a two-person race. It's basically Chip Zdarsky versus Mariko Tamaki. But like a lot of these categories are basically like the most kind of like good net worth. It would not surprise me if Chip Zdarsky wins it though.
That would be awesome. Like he's done like a bunch of fun stuff. So
Yeah. Best writer artist. So this is like someone who wrote and did the art. James Stokey for Sobek, Reed Telmager for Guts. Are like kind of like the two big ones like I recognize. Like a lot of this stuff is also going to be Fantagraphics, Random House, Drawn and Quarterly, which is just like absolutely just like not on my radar. Like my old boss, like he kind of like reads that stuff, and a lot of it's like kind of like just like a little bit above my head on some of the content. But yeah, like best penciler and inker, like Steve Pugh, Rosemary Valeria O'Connell for Laura Dean, best cover artist like Jen Bartel, Francisco Fricavella, David Mack, Emma Rios. It's like Kristen Ward, basically like the same kind of group of people you've been seeing for like the last couple of years doing cover art. That's just been amazing. All here again.
I'm happy. What's her name? Mariko Tamaki got nominated because that Harley Quinn book is real good.
Yeah. Well, it's like Mariko Tamaki. Like she did like a really cool. Like I feel like she's like kind of like right now like a really great writer who is like kind of like not getting the recognition. Like I mean, she's like nominated for an Eisner. It's like she's getting the recognition, but I feel like in a general like sense of like big two, it's like she wrote like a pretty great Supergirl story. She wrote like a pretty okay like.
Which was her Supergirl story?
Being Super. It was like a 3-issue mini.
Okay, I don't remember which one that one is.
But like Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me was good. Like that She-Hulk story she did was like fine, but like it was like kind of like a She-Hulk that like I didn't really kind of like the idea, but she did like a really kind of good job of like basically picking up the pieces of that character after Civil War II. And she does like a lot of like really good like I think she did like this one Summer. But yeah, she did that Harley Quinn book. Like she does like a lot of really good like Ozodin stuff that like she really kind of should be like on a level of a Kelly Thompson or like anyone else in the industry right now. But yeah, like there's like a lot more here. Everything else from here on out is publication design, scholarly work, comics related books. That's pretty much the Eisners here. But like the big like kind of like winners coming out of like the nominations is James Stokey and Lisa Tremaine for Benatar and Sobek.
Yeah, I'm like really interested in Sobek, and I'm like been scouring like where can I find this? I'm like I literally cannot find like a place to download it.
Yeah, like, it's Shortbox, and Shortbox is like a digital only or like a digital first comics provider.
Or if you have a library card, look at your e-library services. Don't know if they'll have it, but check them anyway.
Yeah, mine's like not good where I'm at.
Yeah, we've had that talk. I think about it. I'm sorry, that sucks.
Yeah. All right, so I think that clears us up for news. So do we want to talk about what we read this week?
Yes.
So I read this when it came out. This is when I was still like reading Marvel, and I loved this then, and I love it still now. So I know John Scott did not read.
Finish all of it. I got up to issue 12.
So and it's 15 issues. So we read issue 5 through 15 of Captain Britain and MI13, because this is a interesting, cool book about like a kind of team they threw together and then completely ditched, which sucked. Was it Captain Britain? Sorry, are you gonna say, John?
Well, it's like funny because like this is also like around the time you could tell Marvel was like really kind of building up like the magic library of Marvel. Like there was a like a Dr. Voodoo ongoing from Rick Remender, or like a mini. It was like an ongoing that became a mini about Brother Voodoo becoming the new Doctor Strange. This Captain Britain book, and then like kind of slowly like reintroducing like all the Magic-verse of Marvel, and like you could tell like they were gonna like do something with it, but like on the poor sales of like Dr. Voodoo and Captain Britain, like a lot of it was like dropped. But like this book is like just so rad, and like also like the best thing, like I mean debatably with like Incredible Hercules, or no,
during Secret Invasion.
actually, like that came out from. This is actually the best thing to come out of Secret Invasion. Period. Like this book is just so rad. It's 15 issues, so it's not a huge like
chore to read through.
Yeah, and it's just like so fun. But what is like the story of Captain Britain and the MI13?
Yeah. So like what I do like is I don't remember how he died, but basically like Brian Braddock, who we've talked about if you listen to our Hoxpox stuff, this is like he's returned from the dead, and we have a character who's also shown up in Hoxpox, which is Peter Wisdom. Now, if I remember, he is supposed to be like Peter Pan, right? But he's a mutant.
Pete Wisdom is Warren Ellis.
Oh, okay.
Like Pete Wisdom was created by Warren Ellis as a self-insert character into Excalibur.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Because, yeah, basically, like, to start this, in the Secret Invasion plot, the Skrulls invade London because London is the center of all magic. What's weird, I feel like a lot of this is kind of circling back to what, like, reading the new Excalibur book. It's like, oh, like, this is why I really like that book, because I feel like there's lots of connections to this book in a way, with, like, the team of characters. And so in doing so, Pete Wisdom accidentally opens a portal to the fairy worlds, I guess.
So the Secret Invasion stuff is also like very rad because like it has like also like one of the best like one-page reveals in all of Secret Invasion where the Skrulls invade Avalon and like kill like all of like these magical like characters. Like there's like a scene of the Skrulls killing like the Lady of the Lake and the Green Knight and stealing all these magical artifacts, and then you get to like the last page reveal, and it's a Skrull that's being piled on with all these magical artifacts, and and it's just like such a cool scene, and it's just like basically it's like loading up your character to fight a final boss.
Yeah, so it's in that story where Merlin resurrects Brian, and it is also in that story where Faiza Hussein picks up Excalibur as well.
Like who's like such an incredible character, and she's so good. And then like to this
day, she seemed pretty interesting from the 2 issues I'd read.
Oh, and how prescient is her character? Like even now, and they do nothing with her.
Yeah, it's like like I was reading like a thing on Comics Alliance like a couple years ago, and they like brought up like absolutely, it's like Faiza Hussein should be the new Captain Britain, like 100%. Like, and it's like I like Psylocke as Captain Britain,
But like I do also like her just being called Excalibur and her just running around with Excalibur.
Yeah, sure. And her costume is so rad.
Oh, it's perfect. And I and when we get like into her backstory in this series, like I'm like, oh, I like this character even more and more and more every time I see her.
Yeah,
and like all her interactions with everybody else, especially her interactions with Black Knight, are like awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Also, like I feel like we would be remiss if we didn't bring up like a character part of the MI13 who doesn't show up in the later parts of the series. John the Skrull.
Yes, because he's dead at the beginning of this part.
Yeah, John the Skrull is a Skrull who shapeshifts himself in to like live within the masses, and he loves the music of the Beatles so much that he makes himself look like John Lennon.
Oh yes, yeah.
Or it's debated that John the Skrull is John Lennon.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah,
because I remember they did it with like 2 different characters simultaneously. It was him, and there was another character in like a Young Avengers or something who was also a Skrull that was a good guy that gets killed.
Hulkling is a Skrull.
No, there was another character in like 3D Man.
You're talking about Zavin.
No, it's not Zavin either. There's a character that 3D Man kills, and it's
that was Young Avengers. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like it's literally like the last panel, and they're like, "What the hell?" It's like, dude, he was a Skrull. Like what? And that's like the end of the issue.
Yeah, I think it's like Avengers Academy.
Yes, that's what it is. Because it's where they were trained.
See, I'm thinking of that like online game series, Avengers Academy.
On the phone.
Yeah. That's the first thing I think of when I think of that title.
But let's get into this book because I do think this starts off awesome. Where like you see Captain Britain training, Pete Wisdom's like, yeah, this is where we get like really good, like, oh, your powers work is like basically however you believe in yourself is how powerful you are. So we basically have no idea how powerful you are. It's like, oh,
well, we know how powerful he is. He's as powerful as the belief of the people of Britain believe in him, and that's
I think it's how much he believes in himself.
Oh well,
that's like Gladiator. Britain was like for the entire nation of Britain.
Yeah, but like that's also like what kind of makes like Brian Braddock like a little bit like more interesting than say like I feel like a lot of the things that they do with Brian Braddock in this story is basically what they should have done with the Sentry, but like you know, Bendis like kind of just didn't really kind of know how to handle it in a way that Paul Cornell does. Like, because it's like you know you feel like really sympathetic for Brian Braddock at a lot of times in this book.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm saying they say your strength and vulnerability vary from moment to moment in tandem with your emotions and confidence. It's like you can go from bulletproof to tissue paper at a moment's notice.
Yeah, and I think like that's like the only thing about Brian Braddock that I think like him as Captain Britain is like really like that's like his power is based off of like other people's beliefs in him and also like the struggle with his own like depression of believing in himself.
Mm-hmm. And basically, like, so I think it's like page 2, or it's like page 3 or 4, where he's like, oh, so who's this new recruit? Cut to the most badass intro ever. It's like crash landing a plane and out steps an awesomely designed Blade with like lightning bolts on his head, which is where we originally came from with that anime version because it's the same design basically.
I mean, don't you guys know he just wants people to know that some motherfuckers want to skate uphill.
But yeah, like it is such a cool like also I think it's like this team is like such a ragtag group because it's like you have like it's like Captain Britain, Pete Wisdom, Excalibur, Fazia, Black Knight, Spitfire, who is like a vampire, Blade the Vampire Hunter, and Union Jack.
Well, and Union Jack's like not even really part of the team in this story. It's like we've seen him here and him and Spitfire doing stuff. And then like they're talking and they're obviously a couple, like, or they had like a thing and Union Jack broke it off. And then we cut to Fazia, which I think this is like maybe my favorite bit of this, like as like a funny thing of like her and Black Knight talking. And it's like, oh, my parents are so pissed. And like this is where like she's dropping like stuff like they're training me in Kung Fu. And it's like, yeah, but they're really worried because like, you know, I'm this hero and stuff, and they haven't told them everything yet because, you know, the process is hard on, you know, Muslim families and they're all freaked out about everything. So like maybe if I brought home like a childhood hero and he's like, oh, I'm surprised you picked me, but like, you know, I'm kind of like shitting my pants over this. And basically like from the get-go, it's like the most awkward conversation with her parents and him. And I just love it. Then he does this little curtsy.
And he also like, you know, speaks in like, no, Arabic,
like ancient Arabic or something, right?
Mm-hmm. I think the big image of seeing like the vampires come from space, I just really appreciate that. Basically, this is a life force in comic form.
Oh, it kind of is.
Like, it doesn't it look like that? It looks like the little like pods in the poster for Life Form.
Yeah,
for Life Force. Tyler, have you seen Life Force?
It is like the horniest movie of like the early. Was it late 70s?
No, it was mid 80s.
Mid 80s. Oh, Patrick Stewart's in it. Looking like
horny space vampires. That is my description of that movie. Is horny space vampires.
Mm. But yeah, to come back to, I love the like. I guess it's really weird, but like I know like we're doing this because Blade's not super involved in it, but I do think Blade's character arc is so awesome in this story, and I think you could see it in the way they draw him. Like he gets out of the car, it's raining. He's like, oh, the circuits in my hand don't work well. And he comes in and he's still he's dripping wet for so many panels. And it's like, oh, don't you care about the scrolls? And he's like, yeah, I don't care about the scrolls. It's weather. Like demons and vampires, they're ours. They'll always be here.
Also, like, why would Blade the Vampire Hunter care about scrolls? He's the Vampire Hunter. He's not Blade the Scroll Hunter.
Yeah. And I love his like, Cameron's like, oh, I didn't realize you were British. And he's like, grew up here, made here. Like everything's like super short and like doesn't want to chit chat.
Which you know is like not to peel behind the curtain, but like that's also like why like a little bit later on it's like Blade hanging out with Spitfire and the rest of the crew in the pub is like such a great scene.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like this, as much as he's like not in a lot of it, it's like he has the character growth of any character in this book.
I mean, like outside of like Fazia, who is like an original character for the book, or like even like Black Knight, who's like kind of like, I mean, like I don't have like the history of Black Knight, but like
I'm dead serious. I thought that was Nova when I first saw him. I'm like, Nova's in this? I'm like, nope, that's not Nova.
Yeah, what's funny is that character is going to be in a movie played by Kit Harington.
Oh wait, that's him?
Yeah, that's who he's playing.
Oh shit, that's cool.
Black Knight showing up in
Immortals.
Yeah.
Eternals.
It's the same thing. They're all the same thing.
Yeah.
Black Knight is an Eternal?
Yeah, no, he's in the movie. They haven't said what, because the guy who played Robb Stark is Icarus.
I don't know a whole lot about like outside of season 1 of Game of Thrones.
Well, yeah, the oldest brother of Game of Thrones is playing Icarus, and then Jon Snow is playing Black Knight.
I like that you were like the oldest brother of Game of Thrones.
Oh, season 1 is the oldest brother.
Yeah, oldest Game of Thrones, and then you have like the youngest daughter Game of Thrones.
So like, basically every Stark is going to be in the Marvel movies in some way.
Can't wait for
wait
for Stabby Stark's daughter to get her more. Oh wait, when's that coming out again? Is it coming soon?
It's August.
I hope it stays at August.
Right? Like Wolfsbane is like young Game of Thrones, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then middle daughter child was Jean Grey.
Man, okay, we have to do like a watch party of New Mutants. By the way, like I will like.
Oh, we're definitely doing it.
Like I will legit like not watch that movie until like we like do, and you'll just like see my live reactions of it.
I feel like it'll.
Well, how are we gonna do that if it's in theaters? Are we just gonna wait for it to come to like streaming or something?
Oh yeah, you're right. It is in theaters. Oh man, yeah. Like I thought. Yeah, you're right.
I don't. That's if theaters are open. Yeah.
Well, California is opening in June. Not going.
Whenever it pops up on streaming, we will watch it together for this show.
I'll hold off on watching that. I'm excited to watch it.
I mean, like I said this at the beginning of the year. Like of all the superhero films, the one I was looking forward to the most is New Mutants. Like even like right now, I like the one I'm still looking forward to the most is New Mutants.
I think I'm looking forward to Black Widow. Like, because I want to see.
I'm kind of with Siler on this one because I just want to see New Mutants. I just want to see it.
I just like, to me, it's like it's screaming. I know we're going like again super off topic. It's screaming that they're going to backdoor. That's their backdoor way for mutants into the MCU. Because why the fuck would else they not just put it on streaming?
Absolutely, it has to be. Like at this point, yeah.
Like, because they would have cleaned up by putting it on Disney Plus. Like.
It's like they put Artemis Fowl up on Disney Plus, and you can't put New Mutants up on there.
I request we talk about that movie because I'm going to be mad watching that movie.
Oh, I think that's a watch party.
Yes.
Isn't that movie out in like a week or two?
No, this Friday.
Are we watching it this Friday?
I don't know if I can this weekend, but I'll be down to. Well, we gotta do this movie party first before we get to the next one.
Yeah.
All right. We're off topic. Back to.
Man, it's too exciting. Take a breath. It's too excited.
So there's one quick page. Like I like the foreshadowing when Spitfire's at John the Skrull's grave, and then again back to the awesome awkwardness of Fazia's home with the Black Knight, and it's like basically like I know you superhero, like you were in the Crusades, and it's like I know my superheroes too. Like it was deliberate, like or just stupidity. He's like you got on the wrong foot, Dr. Hussein, and also Dr. Hussein, because they're all doctors, to tell you about Dr. Hussein and I. And then the mom's like, oh my God, you're getting married. And he's like, wait, what? No. I want her to be by a steward. I love all this. And like, they're just like, okay, let's come clean about everything. And this is where we get like Captain Britain and Blade and Pete Wisdom are talking, kind of going over everything. Like, oh, here's our mission. And those are, they're kind of talking about shit, and then it's like, oh, about time Cameron's like, somebody try this. It's like we get like kind of low grade amateur heroes with like real resources and like all the intelligence from like the intelligence community, and then like basically shit goes down, and then we cut back to, and then Fazia Hussein's like, yeah, like they're like, oh, why do you need to do this? He's like, well, she's like, well, let me show this, and pulls out Excalibur from her like side bag.
Really like that
casually pulls out. Here's Excalibur.
And I really love like this moment of like her father like holding Excalibur, and he's like, I can feel it. It's this nation is thus mine, ours. Astonishing. I'm not a particularly religious man, but I can feel it. This is blessed. It's like the
it's like everything that's Hellboy the movie didn't do with Excalibur.
It's like, well, it's like, okay, it's like not only that, but it's like kind of like a certain amount of like there's a current thing like I feel like right now with like nationalism and having pride in one's country.
Yeah, that is a worldwide phenomenon right now in most
it's
countries.
like, but I feel like, a lot of times when you see like people bringing up like nationalism, it's like in this really like ugly, distasteful, like racist way. But it's like, I feel like a lot of like, it's like the powers of Captain Britain, like his powers being based off the people's belief of him.
Excalibur, it goes to
like,
the last line that her dad says. This is unconditional acceptance.
Yeah, it's like
that's such a good line.
It's so good. Like, and Paul Cornell like does like this book of like Britain nationalism that doesn't come off as hateful or gross or like it just like
it's not xenophobic. It's like
no, and I think it also helps like because the Excalibur is like a minority, and like
it's like that. You also have Blade on the team, so like
yeah,
it's kind of a diverse team. Yeah, and like this is where we get the introduction to a character I've never heard of. I didn't remember existed. Captain Midlands, which is a terrible name. So he's like British Captain America, kind of. Like, is he a super soldier? Like, I've never heard of this character, but I'm guessing
I am not either.
But yeah, this is basically when they.
It's like why would you have a British Captain America when
you have Captain Britain?
British Captain.
Yeah. This is when shit goes down. So they hit the button. They have to leave. So everybody goes and teams up. Captain Britain flies away. Fazia jumps on top of the flying horse with Black Knight. Which I feel like is this when they gave him this look with the leather jacket and jeans?
This was like kind of look for like this series. Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like this is like the look that I know him as.
It's a good look.
Yes.
But I love the idea that it's like they leave and like could you imagine it's just like Fazia's parents like looking as like their daughter and this and the Black Knight like leave on this flying Pegasus.
Yeah. And then we get to maybe the ending thing is like the best part of like this first issue that we're going through. It's like Spitfire like runs up and is able to jump on their plane, and it's like, oh, Eric Brooks, which is Blade, meet Lady Jacqueline Falsworth Crichton. He's like, oh, Lady Jacqueline, that's not what you are to me.
Which, by the way, Lady Jacqueline Falsworth Crichton is like peak English like name. I feel like.
And she's like, "Oh, what am I to you, Blade?" And then like the last page of this issue is like another dead vampire, and he's shoving a stake. It's like completely through her entire body. And also, it's like, oh, she's really tiny compared to Blade in this art because he looks gigantic. And that's the end of the first issue, which I was like, oh shit, I forgot this is how this ends. And it's like, yeah, that would be Blade's reaction because to Blade, fuck all vampires, even ones that are on the team, quote unquote.
Also, the name of this arc is called Hell Comes to Birmingham.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, by the way, like all the arcs of Captain Britain all have great names to them.
Yeah. So what's interesting though is like, I guess so when we get to the second issue, like, did he miss her heart?
I mean, he stabs her through her chest. But it's not through her heart.
And yeah, so like she's still alive. Captain Britain lands where he is. Shit's going down. Fazia falls off the horse, but like Black Knight saves her. Basically, everybody is like, "What the fuck, Blade?" And like, but at the same time, I can't remember which character it is.
Blade,
it's like,
Blade, what the fuck? I thought you were cool.
Yeah, but then the one dude is like, did you know she was a vampire? Because I'm kind of with Blade here. And Pete Wisdom's like, shut the fuck up. and send everybody down there. And Blade just like jumps the fuck out of it and like into this hellfire thing and lands like it's literally like I can't not think of it like from Deadpool the movie, like superhero landing. Like it's literally that. He's like out of the frying pan, blah blah blah. And then like you have Black Knight, everybody else lands. And has her hand been like jacked up this whole time, or did it get jacked up because of Blade? I think it got jacked up because of Blade.
I do not remember.
But yeah, Spitfire's hand is all jacked up, so she runs in to go check stuff out. Then we have Captain Britain's talking to some old lady, and they're in these like corridors of the dream corridors. So basically, everybody there in their room is living their dream, and we get all this goofy stuff. And we have our Pete Wisdom team like outside, Spitfire and Captain Britain inside, Fazia Hussein and Black Knight then go in with Pete Wisdom, and they're trying to get people, but the people inside don't want to leave. And Spitfire's like trying to get people out, and then Blade's like, "Nah, bitch, I'm still here. Like you're here because you're attracted to this stuff." And she's like, "No, I can control it." He's like, "You know how many times I've heard that goddamn shit?" It's like, "Yeah, you always say you're gonna control it, but you know what about the bloodlust?" And they basically have this like crazy ass fight, which looks awesome because she's like almost a speedster level speed, I guess is what the imply. Like I don't know the character besides from this story.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of my history with this character is like basically from like this book and then a one shot that comes out like a little bit later. Unfortunately, the character has not been used like ever since, at least to my knowledge. But yeah, her basically thing is like she's a super fast vampire.
Yeah, so basically they're fighting, and then he grabs her hand, and she's like, and this is where they're like kind of flirty fighting. And he's like, "Your accent is like something out of a 60s horror movie."
Yeah, there's like a joke like later about Hammer horror. So it's like, you know, Paul Cornell's like really into like that Hammer vampire like era of like movies.
Mm-hmm. Which I do like Blade's line here. It's like, if you really are in control, just take a step back and let me stake you. And she's pissed and like chucks him. And like Black Knight and Wisdom and Fazia are like trying to deal with the people. And this is where we get like the Black Knight's like, this Blade is like freaking the fuck out. Like
even up that Hammer, you know, Cornell, Paul Cornell, the writer for this book, started co-hosting a Hammer Films production like podcast where he like reviews like Hammer films called Hammer House of Podcast. So fun fact.
Yeah. So I guess this is when we get our reveal of our big bad. Who I was like, oh, it looks like what is it?
Eternity.
Eternity, yes. I was like, is it Eternity? And then it's like, no, it's some dumb shit demon.
Plukta?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's surrounded by he's the maker of the mindless ones. Which
which is interesting.
Like, yeah, well, the last time I saw the mindless one was in Next Wave, Agents of Fate.
Yeah, they're like a Doctor Strange kind of thing. But then we get Black Knight, Fazia, and Wisdom save what the fuck is this guy's name? Not Captain America, Captain Midlands. And he's like telling his story and all this shit. And he's like, yeah, like if you think about what your deepest like dream is, like it'll like take you over and all this stuff.
Like really important to say that Plukta is witches.
Yes. Yeah, Captain Midlands is info dumping us in this. And then we cut to, or like he's basically giving us all this stuff, and they're like, okay, but don't think about the stuff. Like basically he's just like, he traps you here to drain you of your magical power. And this is where Pete Wisdom's like, magical power? Ah shit. I sent Captain Britain first to see like how he'd hold up. And he's basically all like he's an endless source of magical power. And this is like, so we go back to the Blade Spitfire fight, and they're still like fighting, but it's also kind of sexual. It still feels like.
Oh, they're like sexy fighting.
Yes.
Which is like by law by vampires.
Yeah, I feel like this is very like Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah. I think like also like at this point we should like basically just like say like Pete Woods, great artist. Like because this book looks so good.
Oh yes, like I love the way he uses shadows, which I feel like in this type of book is very important.
Yeah, the mindless ones look so good.
Yes. And Spitfire, like in this fight, looks like awesome, like hiding her face. All you see is her eyes and her teeth. because there's like a lot of black in these pages, which I think some artists are scared of. But yeah, when like Captain Britain's fighting the mindless ones, like it's a very dark page. And then yeah, our demon lord opens a door. It's like, oh, it's the thing that you want, and it's his wife Megan,
who's currently missing.
Yes, who we have seen in Hoxpox.
Yeah. So like, hey, this book came out in what 2005, 2006, right?
Yeah.
So like, hey, Megan got better.
Yeah, but like people die and come back all the time, like Captain Britain did.
I actually don't think Megan ever died. I think she was always just.
She
missing.
was. I think she got lost in another.
I was about to make a Uncle Ben joke, but I'm not going to because that's too easy to target.
Well, it's that scene in the bar. He talks about it, and he's just like, it would actually be easier if she was dead. So basically, Captain Britain's like, I know this is like all bullshit, but he's like, but you don't understand my power. And he runs into the door and starts punching the shit out of stuff. And he's like, oh, and the bad guy's like, oh, awesome. Close the door, lady. Which is like his sidekick is an old woman. And so they're going through stuff. Now he has like unlimited power. So they're taking over more buildings. It's expanding exponentially. And then this is where Spitfire and Blade kind of come to a truce. And she's like, I can control my urges. And they're getting attacked by mindless ones. He's like, all right, I won't kill you now, but maybe later. And so they're getting shown through all the stuff. And then was it Excalibur's leading them upwards. And so like that team before it's Fazia Black Knight, Pete, and Midlands are going up. We see Captain Britain finding his wife, Blade and Spitfire killing the shit out of mindless ones. And Blade's like, where are they going? And Spitfire's like, I smell them going up. So he's like, we are too. And then Captain Britain and Megan can't figure out how to get out of where they are. And then we see Pete start to get kind of tempted, which is interesting, giving backstory. And it's like him.
Well, by the way, Brian and Megan are like, can't figure out how to get out of here. And then they just like embrace and kiss and they fall like a meteor to Earth.
Yeah.
It's like such a cool panel.
And Pete's thing, he's having dinner with Kitty Pryde and Emma Frost, but it's weird that like Lockheed's head is mounted.
Well, like, do you know like Pete Wisdom's relationship with Kitty Pryde?
I thought they were like an on again, off again thing.
So, Kitty Pryde like lost her virginity to Pete Wisdom.
Oh.
Which is like, well, okay, so Kitty Pryde, you know, in Excalibur and like in the early 90s when Warren Ellis is writing it, which is like kind of like, it's like if there's like any kind of like weird writing moment about Warren Ellis's run on Excalibur, it's that his self-insert character basically is like the first sexual partner of Kitty Pryde, who is like, you know, I think maybe like 18, 19 at that point, but like Pete Wisdom is not a young man. Like Pete Wisdom is probably like in his mid 20s, like maybe late 20s at that point. But I do not know Pete Wisdom's relationship with
Emma.
Emma.
I feel like in Hoxpox or something they talked recently. I feel like this is implying that he has a thing for her too, because this is like his greatest wish is to be with the two of them, plus his buddy is alive, and then like
his buddy John the Skrull.
Yeah. So then we cut back, they wake him up, they're getting attacked by mindless ones, shit's going to hell. Then we have this other character who I don't remember his name, is like controlling shit on the outside, and then we go into Brian and Megan in the bar, and then Jamie attacks looking like Jesse the Body Ventura with a flaming sword.
That's a good description.
So this is the Abraxas crossover I've always wanted?
Yeah, like he has like, it's like a, instead of blonde, it's like a black curly long hair with two giant hoop earrings and a giant stash and a Pink Floyd shirt.
Yeah, his mustache is as thick as his eyebrows.
You know what he looks like? If I was gonna pick a different wrestler, he looks like Rick Rude.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So we have Jamie ravishing Rick Rude Braddock come in, and everything starts to go to hell. And then Spitfire and Blade are there, and this is where Blade drops like, yes, you know how Pete did the thing with his portal? Yeah, well, I kind of did the same thing and brought all the vampires back. And Spitfire was like, but that means, oh god, he could still be alive. And Jin faints?
Yeah. Also, hey, foreshadowing. Who could be alive? What vampire could be brought back. That's the most dangerous of all vampires.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. Put a pin in that.
And then we have Black Knight gets tempted, but instead he basically melts down and roid rages out and starts fucking killing everything. And then we go back to the Jamie and Brian thing, and Jamie's like, I'm really not, blah, blah, blah. And then Black Knight's freaking out. And basically it ends where Pete Wisdom's like, that's not the Ebony Blade, right when Black Knight's about to kill Fazia.
Yeah, the Ebony Blade's going through, like, berserker rage, essentially.
Yeah, because it wants blood, and the mindless ones have no blood. So the next issue, Captain Britain and MI13, which has, like, an interesting cover that I don't know what it's referencing. Basically, the Black Knight's like,
with
shit.
With Brian uppercutting the mindless ones?
Oh, no, the other cover. There's, like, another weird cover where it looks like Emma Frost in, like, a weird machine.
Oh, yeah, this is a variant image. Like,
yeah,
because it's like one of those things where, like, Marvel has, like, a month of, like, variants that are, like...
Oh, okay.
But, like, you bring up covers, and I wanted to bring up this earlier. Captain Britain has, like, this really neat, like, idea for, like, cover dressing that I think is super neat, where, like, they have, like, the logo for the book up top with, like, this, like a barcode, and then, like, you have the image underneath, which was, like, always, like, really good for, like, essentially, like, someone like me, where our, like, comic racks were, like, descending. So you, like, put a book down, and you put a book down, and you put a book down, and so it was like a staircase of books. Like,
so it was easy to scan stuff.
So it was easier. Well, it's not easier to scan stuff because the barcode's at the bottom, but it was always, like, great because, like, you would see, like, a bunch of books, like, on the shelf, and you knew exactly what that book was because it said Captain Britain and MI13 at the top. So, you know, it's like sometimes
it's not a mid-title.
Yeah, like, it's always, like, really annoying when you have, like, a book that has, like, a middle or lower book title, because you would put it in, and then, like, unless you, like, notice what the book, like, was, like, if there was a character on the top of it, it's like people would just, like, look it over and, like, not even notice it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So to go back in the story, basically, like, yeah, Black Knight's like, oh shit, that's right, and faints. And so Captain Midlands grabs him, and then we cut to Spitfire, who's a bloody mess at the bottom.
Very, very messed up.
At the bottom of the elevator shaft, and then we have our bad guys like, oh, we can give you all this stuff. And this is where we learn, like, would that be your son Kenneth living a happy life and all this shit? And she's basically about to say, go fuck yourself. And then Blade shows up, he cuts the thing, and he's like, the demon's like, what the hell is that? Like, you can't kill a Duke of Hell. He's like, I'll be back for you. And he's like, oh, this is my special sword. It's paper mache. And it's made from the pages of a magical book. It's good against demons, but it's bad in the rain. And she's like, I can't move. I'm probably dying. How dreadfully dull. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're a goddamn vampire. Stop bitching and get the fuck up. And she's like, oh. Oh, yeah. And she gets up and she's like, oh, it's just going to be painful? Oh, well then. And, like, literally just, like, puts herself back together. Her hand aside. It's like, she reacts like she's never thought about that before, which I was like, that's weird. And yeah, then they take the elevator up. This is, like, the interesting with this other character is, like, they're setting up some sort of tesseract pentagram thing outside. Pete's basically telling him, he's like, yeah, we have no idea what this ebony sword is, but it's, like, powerful enough to trick Camelot. So it's got to be some sort of power. That won't come back later. And Fazia's like, oh, so now you can chuck it and get rid of it. And he's like, if I get rid of it, someone else is just going to pick it up. It's like, and she's like, you were going to kill me. He's like, I had it under control. She's like, bullshit. And then Captain Midlands is like, oh, we got to keep going. And so the outside people catch one of the mindless ones. Captain Britain, like, is not dead after being attacked by Jamie, who reveals, like, I'm not actually Jamie. I'm your unconscious talking to you because you're not actually in here. He literally rips the comic book page away and shows them that they're in some trans-dimensional
thing.
So
rad, by the way. Like, yeah. I love, which, like, is also, like, a throwback to, like, Jamie Braddock as a character who is, like, basically, like, manipulating reality. It's like, he's, like, it's like his subconscious is ripping away reality.
And this is where Captain Britain's like, oh, if this isn't real, then, oh yeah, Megan, you're not real. And we literally see her fade away. And I feel like it's like they leave it ambiguous of whether or not she is real. Because she's from like the Camelot, right? Or the fairy world.
Yeah, like she's like a magical shapeshifter or shapeshifter. There we go.
But like she's like, oh no, like if you believe I'm here, I am. But if you think I'm not real, then I'll go away. And then she fades away. And it's kind of ambiguous. Then we have other dude, the bad guy dude, is talking, expositioning about how he wish he could be in the thing, and the guys outside capture the mindless one. He's like, oh, I think I see a way out. But if I see a way out and it's too inviting, then it's probably not real. So it's like, oh, how do I figure this out? And we have, I don't know this character's name, Stuart something. And they cake the mindless one.
You know, I'm just realizing as I'm listening to this, I think I read the other story this week instead of this first story.
Well, so this is Hell Comes to Birmingham. Like, we'll get to Vampire State, like, right after this.
Okay.
Yeah, this is like a setup for that. So,
okay.
Like, this is basically the book that introduces Blade, his relationship with Spitfire, who's also a vampire, and, like, kind of, like, also sets up that, like, you know, the big bad who's about to show up.
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So all this shit's going on. Excalibur's leading our group, and they're like, what's going on up there? Pete Wisdom tries to kill Blade, and Spitfire's like, hell, it's like, stop that shit. He's like, oh, but I missed. And it's like, yeah, I know what we're up against. Like, I've met him. He's one of the Dukes of Hell, which means trouble, and they all have powers. Blade basically info dumps on us that he's the one that created the mindless ones. He's the head of the witches, and we can't really kill him and all this stuff, basically, because Britain's all fucked that, like, they're making a play for it.
Also, on this splash page, we see Dormammu and
yeah,
Lilith.
Dormammu. Who is the other one?
Dormammu, isn't it?
It's Dormammu, and I believe it's Lilith.
Is it Lilith? Okay, I wasn't sure if it was Lilith the Enchantress or Morgan Le Fay.
I believe it's Lilith and Dormammu.
Well, Lilith makes more sense because of what's coming.
Yeah.
So basically, they're having it out, and Spitfire's like, "I'm the injured party," which won't get said 12 more times in this comic. And it's like, "Oh, I see that you didn't say. Glad to see you have your hand back." And he's like, kind of bitching, and then Captain Midland busts open the door, and they walk in, and they're like, what's going on?
because they're like trying to be like figuring out what's going on, and Midland's like, no, like we gotta go inside the store. We gotta go, you guys.
It's coming in here, and they all go in, and he closes the door, and they're like, what the shit's going on? And he's like, she looks like someone like I saw when I was young, or actually, I think we've. And Spitfire turns around when she realizes what's going on. It's like, oh, yeah, we met in 1942. I'd forgotten. I'm so sorry. It's like, so you worked it out. You figured it out. But that won't stop me. It's like, this is my wife, Nancy Ridley. She died in 1963 originally. I didn't like stop him. I took the deal immediately. But since I came in here willingly, I got my dream, but you guys didn't, so you don't get yours. Peace. And it basically ends with like them being trapped and him kissing his wife.
Plot twist.
Yeah. So basically Pete Wisdom's like freaking the fuck out, which then I love what he does, which is like he just fucking destroys her immediately and she shatters like porcelain in the next issue. I love that it's not even saved. It's like page 2. She dead. The fake wife. And this is where we have the other dude.
Yeah, Pete Wisdom's like, this is what you deserve, and he blasts his wife and she's gone. It's Pete Wisdom, like Pete Wisdom is like one of those guys who is like loyal, like he is like super loyal character, but it's like if you like piss him over, like he will like come at you tenfold.
Mm-hmm. So we get the other guys crawling inside of a mindless one, which is interesting. And Pete's like, "We're getting out of here. How the fuck do we fix this? And whenever we get out of here, I'm gonna make sure the worst fucking shit is done to you." And then he's just like, all right, you know what, fuck this. Black Knight, give me your sword. And Brian's like, what? And then we cut to Captain Britain, and then the guy crying to the mindless one shows up, and he's like, oh shit. Like, I didn't wish for you, so that means you're real. How the fuck do we get out of here? And
and he's like cutting through it, like it's like this like panels are like super great because it's just basically Pete Wisdom, like, and you just like imagine him just running and chopping. And it's like he's like shopping through all these different realities. It's like it's like this soccer field, and then it's like this dining room.
Yeah, he basically builds up the sword. He's like, "You want blood? Well, there's no blood in here except for the 6 of us. Don't you want to get out?" And the sword's like, "Fuck yeah!" And yeah, he's just cutting through everyone's dreams. there's a bunch of weird because it's a soccer game. It's like a dinner. Then it's a furry that's gonna have sex with a teddy bear.
I think it's just like some kind of like weird children's show kind of thing.
Well, the dude is in a bunny costume.
Yeah.
So then he's cutting through like somebody landing on the moon and all this shit. And then this is when
it's someone landing on the moon with a British flag.
Yeah. Captain Britain and his buddy like
no,
see that there's a hole.
So it's not only is he like chopping through like, you know, different like parts of like this reality, he's chopping through other parts of reality.
Yes, because they do mention that later on. So Captain Britain's leaving, and then we see that like, oh, is this actually Megan? And since he's leaving, I guess it is actually Megan because he's not involved in it, so she's actually real, which definitely won't come back. And then we see our Duke of Hell is like losing all of his power. This lady's crying. And then we have our big team up, and they're like, step away from the lady. And he's like laughing, like, oh, like you can't do anything. Like, I'm a goddamn Duke of Hell. And they're all this awesome fighting.
The inks of this book are so good.
The colors, it's so good.
Yeah, the colors really popped is what I noticed.
And basically, Captain Britain comes out and it's like, oh yeah, how about I do this? And rips him into his own tunnel thing. So then he's like feeding off of himself until he would die. But like he can't die. So then like the other guy that crawled through the mindless one's like, oh, I'll take him back where I came from. And now they have the demon trapped, which definitely won't come back. And then basically everything is done. And now they're like dealing with Blade. And basically she's like, I'm the one that got hurt. All the vampires are back, and they're not black, they're back. And Blade said he's going to help me deal with my son. So I want him around. If we know the vampire's back, we need him. He's like the guy who knows. And the next basically important part is that like Blade and her are kind of talking. He's like, this is weird. I thought I was just going to like fucking kill you and like steal shit from here, but now I'm here. And then they hook up.
Yeah.
And then we get like the foreshadowing of Megan. This is where we learned like, oh, they're connected to other dimensions, and Megan is trapped in the void. And I love this like kind of epilogue with Captain Bidlands and Pete Wisdom's like, yeah, like I can't bear like the Captain's like I can't bear the thought of a draw. He's like, me either, because these people will probably let you off, you piece of shit. And he's like, so why don't you just do us all a favor? Hands him a gun and walks out. And he's like, I wonder if I'll hear a shot. I don't. I'm not surprised.
Pete Wisdom, what a fucking madman.
Yeah, I feel like this issue has like 3 epilogues. So then our final epilogue is like
County
is basically the reveal, and it's fucking Dracula on the moon.
The Dracula on the dark side of the moon.
Yes,
the dark side of the moon has no light, it has no sun,
and they don't want to deal with the Inhumans who are on the blue area.
Like, yeah, like
now I'm mad that Transformers titled Dark of the Moon, because that means I'll never get Blade Dark of the Moon.
I cannot tell you.
Blade Dark of the Moon is an insane movie title.
I was reading this book as it was coming out, by the way, and like when like this last page reveal of Dracula on the dark side of the moon, like I was just like, this is the greatest comic book I've ever read. I don't think I've read a book that's better than this. Like, what a cool idea.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of similar to the 30 Days of Night idea, but better in like a weird sci-fi way.
Which is like funny, by the way, because 30 Days of Night, do you know where it takes place at?
It's like
it's Alaska, isn't it?
Yeah, it takes place in Barrow, Alaska. In the book, they're like, or like in the movie, they're like, oh my god, it's 20 below. Like, it's so cold. Barrow? Like, Fairbanks, like at its coldest, heart of Alaska, by the way. Grew up there, 28 years. Fairbanks in February, whole month, at least gets to 45 to 60 below. Like Barrow gets colder than that. But like, it's funny because like the makers of the film like didn't think that like film goers would believe that. Like, they were like, we can't have a movie where it's like Barrow is like 70 below. Like, no one will believe that. And of course, like 70 below seems unfathomable, at least to me, because the coldest I've ever been in was 60 below. Which basically is like breathe in and you feel your lungs
freezing.
Yeah, like literally. That's how it feels. But yeah. So Yeah, that's my fun fact about 30 Days of Night.
Yeah, so we have where are we at? Issue 10, which I feel like
the first issue of Vampire State.
Which opens up with Dracula talking to Doctor Doom and basically
on the moon.
On the moon,
by the way.
And them shit talking each other and basically signing a deal with the Dark Illuminati.
Also,
and then Dracula wipes away the footprints on the moon.
Also Dracula being like very racist. And Dr. Doom like saying, "Spare me your racism, quote unquote, count."
Yeah, I actually really I forgot that this happens here. Like he's just like, oh, it's like I find it ridiculous when human leaders make those kind of assumptions, but in like an artifact, a mystical viral package such as yourself, it's almost funny.
By the way, like rereading this, like when Dracula's giving like his big monologue about like, Your Majesty, now that you've regained your kingdom, you would wish to see my people police ruled, would you not? Keep away from your borders. There's also the matter of Islam. It will close the gap in the West in the terms of science and supernatural empowered individuals. And I'm like, oh my god, like, was this stuff like used to be in this book? And then like Dr. Doom initially is like, spare me your racism, count. And I'm like, oh, like Paul Cornell knows exactly what he's doing. This is great.
But it also makes sense for like this version of Dracula. He is the kind of historical Dracula.
Yeah,
where he was like the Prince of Wallachia that was taken by the Turks, right? And enslaved and all this stuff. So he has a hard-on for Islam specifically.
Dr. Doom calls him Vapesh, like Vlad Vapesh. Like even the design of Dracula in this book is like very Universal Monsters classic ID in your brain Dracula, which like is really sad because there's like a couple years later, Dracula shows back up within the X-Men.
With the white hair and the armor.
The white hair, muscle-bound armor look of Dracula, it sucks. I hate it. Like there's like two good things that came out of that storyline of Dracula and the X-Men is like the idea of like first off, Jubilee as a vampire ended up being like a really cool idea. And they did like a lot
after she lost her powers, right?
Yeah, and they did like a lot of really cool stuff with Jubilee as vampire. The second idea was like the very beginning of that storyline where they had and it was like probably like a little tasteless. It's probably still tasteless now, is the idea of vampire suicide bombers who would like basically be vampires who expose themselves to light in the middle of like, you know, a crowded street in the middle of the day and explode and then basically infect everyone else around them with vampirism. And that's how Jubilee became a vampire.
Oh.
I thought it was a super cool idea at the time. Now that I'm saying it out loud, like even after like having the caveats like, oh, this is probably not have aged well. It's like, yeah, totally has not aged well. It is totally like a thing of the time of like 2007.
Yeah, I do think it's funny reading this book though, and this is like the same time as Ultimates, right? When we read that, 2005.
Ultimates was 01, I think.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Let me look up here.
While you're looking up, but like this is where we get like Captain Britain's talking to P. Wisdom's talking to a blonde at a bar, sitting across from Captain Britain and a brunette, and they're like talking about stuff, and he's like, "Oh, so like you saw your wife, but there's a hallucination." He's like, "Yeah, it's something like that." And it's like I hate to even say it, and the woman's like, "Yeah, you could mourn if she was actually dead, but she's not. She's just missing." And then we see Spitfires like drinking a giant beer. All this stuff, and then this is where we get an awesome thing. So like Blade picks her off of there, and basically like the rest of the MI13's like, you know, how about you join in? And he's like, I don't drink beer, and it's like you don't have to. A bunch of us are flying out tomorrow, so we're not drinking.
Okay, so if I were to interrupt, Ultimates 2, Grand Theft America, which is the last arc of Mark Millar's Ultimates, ends a year before Captain Britain and MI13 start.
Okay. Because I knew Secret Invasion and like part of the Ultimates kind of around the same time.
Because I mean, like Ultimates 2 like took like 2 years to finish.
Yeah. So we're on the spot where like we have this awesome conversation with Blade, and he's like, "Oh, you know, we always sort out the mess you lot leave us." He's like, "My lot," and he's like, "Yeah, like our American friends," and he's like, "Oh." It's like, yeah, you're literally standing in a corner with your arms folded and sunglasses on, not saying a word. Ooh, tough guy. Really appreciate like the fuck you pose.
Yeah, this bar scene is so good. Like one of my favorite if one of my favorite like one pages from this comic is, or like at least from this issue, is Spitfire drinking from like the long
Oh yeah,
beer glass and then being carried away by a bunch of dudes. Like, because of course, like what a great page.
yep. And Blade's like, I guess I have been around superheroes so long. He takes off his glasses, and him and Spitfire are having a conversation. He's like I've never really done this. Like these weeks, even you and me, like I've not realized like I haven't been like talked to anybody gently in so long. It's like somewhere down the line I got melodramatic, and she's like, "Oh, vampirism will do that for you," and she's like, "Oh, if this didn't happen to you, I see you like you could have been a good businessman, a good dad. Instead, you're a hammer horror, someone out of time with only their punchlines to lean on, just like me." She's like, "Oh, I didn't mean to sound so flippant." And he's like, "Understand," and they kiss. Like, I love this interaction between them because you're like, "Oh shit, Blade's like actually getting to be like a human for once."
Yeah, and I think it's like a lot of times with it, like even like when Blade shows up in the movies, it's like very kind of like rare that you get to see Blade be like a person. It's like he has to be like not like a character, but he has to have like a front. It's
well, that's
like,
what I think only the second one does any sort of good job of doing a similar thing as this scene with him, and I can't remember the female vampire's name in that. And I feel like they have like a kind of similar-ish relationship, but it never gets as far. And like that's the closest we get to like movie Blade like being human. Because like the woman in the first one, he like doesn't even do anything with. In the third one, there's not even a romantic interest for him because Wesley Snipes was just doing coke all day.
And not coming out of his trailer.
Yeah. So we do get this good scene of Black Knight and Fazia going to Wakanda to get the real blade from Storm because T'Challa had it, and they're like, "Oh, how'd they get it?" And it's like, "Oh, he found it when he took it from the Vatican's Black Knight, who found it in a vampire nest in Iraq." And then so we have the two of them, like Fazia and Black Knight, in the plane, and then they're talking. He's like, "Oh, is that?"
Which, by the way, like also like what a time in comics where like this is like also around the time where Storm was married to Black Panther,
which was such a good idea.
I mean, yeah,
I liked it.
Yeah, like I think it's like fine. I think it was like more along the lines of like we have these two prominent black characters.
Well,
like let's do something with
black
them.
African characters.
But like I think, yeah, like you're right. But like I also think it's like this is around the time where like they had like kind of like no plans for either character, because like I mean Black Panther doesn't have like a big huge long run. I feel like after this, like I feel like
think his big story is
not kind of important.
Isn't his shit around here dealing with Namor, and then isn't it like when he dies, and then we have like the other Black Panther, like
Shuri becomes the Black Panther, which was like kind of cool. And then
he takes over the Daredevil book before coming back to his own book.
He is Daredevil for a while.
Yeah,
and he fights the hate monger. He is like the Daredevil man without fear.
Man without fear. It doesn't say Daredevil. It's just man without fear. But it's Black Panther. It's a child.
And it's during Fear itself, and he fights the hate monger, who is the reincarnation of Adolf Hitler. That book is wild.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I want to finish this issue, then we might have to make this a two-parter because it's getting late. But we have Fazia and Black Knight talking, and basically she's like, "I'm a goddamn doctor. Like, that was Storm. Like, I didn't get to say a word." He's like, "What did you want to say? I'm such a big fan. Like, I just took the ebony, like the burden of the ebony blade, if you didn't notice." And he's like, "Yeah, you were really quick to do that." and you're an injured man. It's like, what do you mean injured? It's like, oh, the whole Stoneheart. Now you got 2 evil weapons, and we found out that it has a fang inside, and we're pretty sure whose fang that is, since we know what creature swapped the sword. And he's like, oh, the Stoneheart. It's like not really what you think. Like my ex gave it to me so that like I wouldn't be distracted with anything or anybody. And then we're like, oh, Kutsavasia. Basically, like, oh, he just like crushed my heart without even knowing it because he couldn't know it because of magic. And this is where we get like again super foreshadowing. He's like, I can make you a knight anytime I want, but like usually like you're carrying Excalibur. There's going to be a moment when you're going to do a thing, and then you'll know that you're a knight. And she's like, yeah, I'd rather have that. And then this is where we cut to the moon, where they're making test tube vampires, which we'll see in like every Blade movie, and
like Dracula and his vampire scientist.
Yeah, this is literally like stuff from Blade 2.
This is basically Wolfenstein also.
Yeah. And he's like, bring me another girl. And they basically shoot vampires like missiles from the moon.
Yeah. Like, Dracula also just has a pig pen full of like girls that he just drinks the blood from.
Yeah. And like, oh, what's going to happen? And we see dead girl on the floor. So yeah, the plane that the Black Knight and Fazia in gets hit. Then Blade walks Spitfire home, and we have like an awesome conversation. It's like, oh, don't you want to come in? God, do I really have to say this like about coffee? And he's like, yeah, I would love to come in for a cup or two, but not yet because this is actually like kind of real, and I want it to be real.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So also, by the way, like the whole entire thing where you invite vampires in, like, and that's the only way they can enter your house.
Oh
like,
yeah, it's a huge part of the story. Yeah.
So it's like she's like, "Do you want to come in for coffee?" And he's like, "No," like blah 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 blah. And then like the next page, like Spitfire goes into her home, and Kenneth, her son, is outside. And he's like, "Are you gonna let me in?" It's like, "Oh, because he's a vampire. He has asked to be let in." It's like so good. It's like within a page of each other.
Yeah, I do love. I just can't. I don't want to end without saying where Blade's like, and when we do it, I want the whole damn percolator.
That's such a good line.
Yeah, and
what a fucking line.
Then we cut to the Sane family home, and it's like, oh, it sounds like it's Fazia, so her dad's letting her in. It's like, oh, please let me in. And he opens the door, and no, it's fucking Dracula also holding a dead girl.
Yeah.
Because of course it is.
And that's where we end here. And since me and John Scott are fading, we can cover the other, was it 4 issues left? 5 issues left next time. Because we covered like one whole arc in the first issue of the next arc.
Plus we went on a lot of tangents.
Yeah, how about this? Like, what if we like do this thing where like we record Blade, and before we record Blade, Blade : Trinity, we do the rest. We do the rest of this Captain Britain, because I think the rest of it is like not going to take a whole lot of time.
No, it's very fast moving.
Yeah, that's fine with me. And yes, just so you all know, our next watch party is Blade Trinity.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited for that.
Which we
Doesn't Artemis Fowl come out this month? Or like this week?
Artemis Fowl comes out Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
are we doing that, or
I do? We just need to find a day. It might not be the weekend it comes out. We might have to wait like till the next weekend or so.
But like I just want to say this. Like, I think Captain Britain is so good, and is like one of like those like kind of forgotten 2000 era like Marvel comics. Like this and like Incredible Hercules for like a while were like, this is like the best books in comics. And
yeah, I loved Incredible Hercules, and I really loved this book, and I was like so happy to read it again.
And like, yeah, and rereading this book again, it's like this book is still as good today as it was like, like 10 years, 15 years ago at this point. Yeah. Or 13 years ago at this point.
And one of my thoughts was like, why is this not something like this is what they need to build towards in the MCU? Like, how rad of a movie would this be? Like, oh,
exactly.
We do a Blade movie. We do like, I don't even know if you need you don't need a Captain Britain movie. But like after a Blade movie, like kind of set up, I guess you could do like a Captain Britain movie. And then, like, instead of a Midnight Suns, like, this would be the other thing I would want Blade to be.
I wouldn't even do a Captain Britain movie. It's like if I were to introduce a Captain Britain within the MCU, like...
Maybe just an Excalibur movie?
you would just do like Captain Britain and the MI13. Like you would do you would basically just take like the best ideas of the Captain Britain and the MI13 like as a core property. Like you would have like Brian Braddock, you would have Fazia, you have Pete Wisdom, you would have Black Knight, who might be like that introduction within like the MCU. And then you would like basically like kind of do some like amalgamation film without doing like the Skrulls, but like introduce these characters in a certain way. Because I think there's like the best version of the modern day interpretation of these characters like all show up within this book.
Yep. All right. So anybody have any plugs they want to do before we head out?
I could do something really quick. You can follow me at John JOHN _FN _ Siler, where I've been retweeting Injustice and Black
Pictures
Lives
of the
Matter
game.
and talking and trying to like be as fun as I can, but like hey, shit's real right now.
Yep. Don't forget to check out all the other shows. Everything's going on. Don't forget to tell your friends. Leave 5 stars. Is there anything else anybody wants to say?
No, I'm good this time.
Yep. All right. We will catch you guys next time. Adios.
Keep fighting.
Remember, some motherfuckers always want to try to ice skate uphill.
So I guess I'll join the Great Lakes of